In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Quora to get some more insights for your idea. Now, Quora is essentially a question and answer website. It's well populated. It's got a lot of activity. It seems to attract a certain type of user. It seems to be heavily biased towards men, unfortunately. But still, it's still useful. You have to take it with a pinch of salt. You're not going to get a lot of scientific insight. You're going to get some general insight, and this is what this sort of stress testing process is for your ideas. You're going to go to these websites, check stuff out for free, and see if it takes you down a new avenue with the idea, or perhaps it gives you some confidence to strike out an idea. So there's three things we can get from Quora that will be useful for your idea. The first one is insights into pain points. So what kind of problems do people have? Because if people are asking questions about something, chances are they're not finding that information anywhere else, and they want a human answer rather than having to sift through lots of information on the internet. So that's the first thing you can get from Quora. The second one is insights into the users. So you should have a good idea of who your customer or user is. What you can use Quora for is to really refine that idea a little bit, get a better idea of who these people are, what kind of language do they use, what kind of problems do they have, and so on. And the third thing you can use Quora for is insights into the solution. So what kind of solutions exist out there already? What sort of feedback do we have on those solutions? And what sort of language do people use when talking about solutions? So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Quora now. I'm going to type in cycling knees as an extension of the search that we did on Google Keywords earlier. So what it's going to do is going to throw up a whole bunch of questions that people are asking about cycling knees. I'm just going to go right down to the bottom one here and just click search cycling knees. It's going to throw up all the questions people have asked about cycling and knees. Now, you're going to get a bit of junk come back with this as well, because it's going to connect words like cycling with words like cycle, which have a whole bunch of other different meanings as well. So you have to kind of discount that. What we're looking for are questions which kind of give us insights into those 3 points earlier. So the pain points, the user, and the solution. So we want to kind of find well answered, well trafficked questions like this one, for example. Road cycling. If your legs and knees move laterally a lot while riding, should you get fixed cleats or cleats with a 6 degrees of float? So it's somebody who's got a little bit of information and knowledge about cycling already. Seems to be a lot of answers in that one. So let's open up that tab, just have a quick look. So there's 11 answers here. A little bit of insight into the pain point. Somebody's got, an issue with movement of the legs, lateral movement, so not moving backwards and forwards, so moving sideways on the bike, which is a real problem. And it should be, it's a problem which leads to knee pain, essentially, because you want to have those knees almost completely straight laterally, because it's inefficient. So the question this user is asking is about getting cleats being the part that goes underneath the cycle shoe that attaches the shoe and clips it into the cycle pedal. A bit of plastic. A real problem for beginner cyclists, because it's a whole new world and people don't really know what to do about it. So identify a little bit about the problem. So there's an issue here with cleats. Scroll down and have a look at some of the answers. Incorrect fits seem to be a recurring problem source. Words like efficiency are really important. Cycling efficiency is key to cycling, because the more inefficient you are, the more your form degrades over long periods of use, or long cycling periods. What else do we have here? Again, cleats come up again. Different options for your cleats here. Pedaling technique is another one. So what we're doing is we're sort of gathering language that we can use talking about the problem and also the solution. So we can use the language that people understand already correcting your form. Again, form is really important. Lateral knee movement. Here we go. Once again, a key phrase used a number of times to describe the problem. What else do we have here? So as you go down the page, the answers get a little bit less authoritative because they have less comments, less upvotes, and so on. So you shouldn't go right down to the bottom of the page. So just sort of skim across these briefly. Again, downstroke. So again, collecting all this information. So you should make a note of all the sort of language that comes up, because that will help you build the story around the cycle problem, the problem that you're trying to solve. So you've got things like lateral movement, you've got things like bike fit, and you've got cycling form, cleats, and so on. Right, so that was that one. Let's go back to the main page once again, see what else we can pick up. Can I start cycling at the age of 42? Will cycling at this age affect my knees? I have only recently started exercising. Now, remember those 3 things that I told you that we're looking for from Quora to get more insight into the problem? The first one is the pain points, which we've just found. You know, somebody talking about the pain points, the kind of language and the solutions as well. The second one is the user. So this is more about one type of user. So a late starter, and you know, middle-aged cyclists is a big market, right? So that's the pain point. Somebody here is obviously concerned that they will start cycling and that will impact their knees and that will sort of screw them up for the rest of their life, right? So that's an interesting question. So that's a real concern, a real pain point that somebody has. So again, insights into the user, what they're fearful about, what they're worried about. So if you were targeting cyclists generically, now maybe you have a bit of a niche that you can sort of hone in on, which is, you know, those late starting cyclists, or the sort of the hobbyists who may be starting cycling and really concerned about their knees, and they may not be fit, or they may not have the sort of baseline of fitness, the mechanical condition that maybe an elite cyclist or a regular cyclist would have. Here's somebody that doesn't use this group of muscles, which is, now is going to be tested going out on the bike. So a real worry for beginner cyclists. So some of the answers here are really interesting. As it says here, this answer here says, cycling, it's an aerobic activity, but it's easy on the knees. You may notice some stiffness if you're a new rider, right? This may be exacerbated by walking up or down stairs. Somebody else says here, there's no limitation for starting cycling. Very true. Somebody else here started recreationally at 46. It's the best thing I could have done mentally and physically. Had knee issues during my teen years, was made worse by playing racquetball. So sort of impact type sports, like tennis, racquetball and so on, where, your foot is impacting the floor with a lot of force, very different to cycling. So you're getting a lot of insights here. And what I would use this for is to say, hey, look, cycling is a fantastic exercise for aerobic fitness. And, unlike impact sports, if you develop a good pedal stroke, you can enjoy a lifetime of cycling. Whereas, if you were to take up maybe football or tennis or whatever, racquetball, badminton, squash, the lifetime of your knees is going to be tested right to the max. And especially if you're a late starter, that's going to be a real problem. But, cycling is a fantastic activity. All you've got to do is get that pedal stroke right. And, you can enjoy that. Your knees won't be tested. Knee pain is not a necessary part of cycling. It's more an indication of having the wrong form and so on. So I find those really insightful. Getting some insights and sort of learning a little bit about what people think, the worries that they have about cycling, what kind of good answers are out there in terms of solutions. And also, I think allowing us to position our solution against other solutions in the market, cycling is better than these impact sports. So, that really helps potential customers feel reassured that it's the right thing for them. So here's another one here. Can cycling 80 kilometers a day cause irrevocable knee injuries? Not a lot of information on this one, right? But what it's just telling us is that is a concern that people have, right? Irrevocable knee injuries. That is obviously something people worry about, right? Again, you can go down. You see all these questions here, focusing more on the medical side of knee pain. So, for example, somebody here recovering from a knee injury, is cycling a good idea? Again, that's another insight into a potential user. So you've got these user groups who are not necessarily the core user group for the cycling market. So you've got people who are beginner cyclists at a late stage, and people maybe who have injuries who are picking up cycling, or people who are picking up cycling to improve their health when they're not naturally sporty or fit compared to your average club cyclist and so on. So the question is for you, would you go down that route? Would that be an area that you wanted to explore? Because if you were to target cyclists, you've got a really wide range of people in that market. At one end, you've got like the elite pro cyclists. Then you've got the real hardcore amateurs who compete in competitions. Then you've got your weekend warrior club cyclists, and below them you have your sort of occasional cyclists and people who are doing it for a number of different reasons, like to improve their fitness or lose weight or so on, or somebody to recover from some kind of knee injury. So the question is with your idea, which niche do you go in with? Because you can't target them all, because these people won't associate with each other. A pro cyclist won't hang around with a beginner. So the language they're going to identify with is going to be completely different. So at the same time, you need to understand that, you have to go in when you develop your customer profile. You have to be really specific about who you're targeting. It's not anyone who cycles. It's got to be someone specific, and you've got to have the picture of that person in your head. So you could have that picture in your head of that guy who looks like Bradley Wiggins and is an elite cyclist, is an elite amateur cyclist and cycles like 80 kilometers a day. That could be one market you're targeting. Or you could be targeting Sally, who's an office worker and a mom, and she is picking up cycling because she wants to lose weight, and she's been doing impact sports for years, but there's really messed up her knees, so she's wondering if she can do cycling to actually lose weight without actually exacerbating her knee problem. So that's another market you can go into, and that's how you can use something like Quora to get insight. As I say, it's not scientific, but it should be used as a tool to take you on a journey, take you down a road, and help you explore some ideas. And you can go back and type in lots of different variations of those key search terms and just kind of explore as much as you can until you get a better picture of what's out there. And this really should be a conversation in your own head at this stage. So you've got some information when you're building your customer profile, also identifying what the pain points are, and also got a feeling as well what kind of language you need to use when you're developing a solution.